As I slept soundly, my sister crept off with my credit card. By morning, $15,000 had vanished, splurged on gifts and a lavish Japan escape. When she strolled home, Dad rushed to shield her, unaware that card carried a secret that could destroy it all. I still remember the feeling, that ice-cold dread, my stomach plummeting, the moment I realized my entire life savings had vanished. Not in some random hack but systematically stolen while I slept by the one person I thought I could trust, my own sister. What would you do if the ultimate betrayal came from family, and you realized you'd actually set the stage for it yourself? But before I tell you about that night, you need to understand where it all started. Our childhood was complicated. My sister Sarah, 3 years younger, was always my parents' darling. From day one it was clear. Different rules applied to us. Sarah, with her wide blue eyes and infectious giggle, could charm her way out of anything. She'd shatter a neighbor's window at 7, and my parents would call it athletic spirit. Flunk math. Oh, the teacher just didn't appreciate her creative mind. Me. I was the responsible one. My grades had to be perfect, my room spotless. Any little misstep and I'd get the disappointed look. A stark contrast to the endless understanding Sarah always got. That double standard, that gaping unfairness, it shaped us both. Sarah learned she could escape every consequence. Me. I learned fierce self-reliance. I started working part-time at 16, saving every single dollar for college. My parents said they'd help, but I had to contribute. Sarah, though, she just drifted, never building any of the discipline that, well, you'll see, would later become absolutely crucial. College was my escape, my turning point. I busted my butt at Boston University, working 20 hours a week at a coffee shop, acing my classes, nailing internships. Those years were brutal, fueled by caffeine and sheer willpower, but they taught me everything. How to budget, how to survive on fumes, and most importantly, how to never rely on anyone else. After graduation, the job market was a nightmare. I spent 9 months as an administrative assistant, drowning in rejection letters. But I didn't quit. My persistence finally paid off with a junior analyst position at a good firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was my foot in the door. For 5 years, I climbed that corporate ladder, working 12-hour days, volunteering for the projects no one else wanted. I earned a reputation for being meticulous, reliable, unwavering. Last year, I got my senior analyst promotion. That substantial salary increase finally let me buy my dream apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows, city views, a space that was entirely, gloriously mine. After years of roommates and cramped places, this felt like the ultimate achievement. My disciplined habits meant incredible savings, an outstanding credit score, and access to premium credit cards most people my age could only dream of. My Zenith Black Card, with its generous limit, was my most prized possession. Not because I flaunted it, I was still frugal, but because it symbolized everything I'd earned: financial security, painstakingly built, one perfect credit payment at a time. While I was grinding, Sarah was being Sarah. After high school, she bounced through 3 different college programs in 4 years: photography, marketing, psychology, never finishing a single one. Each time she'd get bored or the work would be too demanding. Her jobs followed the same pattern: retail, restaurants, admin roles. She'd start with enthusiasm, then call in sick, arrive late, get fired. And every single time it was never her fault. The manager was unreasonable, the hours were unfair, the environment was toxic. There was always someone else to blame. And my parents, they just kept bailing her out. Rent money, a new car when hers got repossessed, co-signing apartments despite her multiple evictions. They called it supporting her while she found her path. I called it pure, unadulterated enabling. 6 months before this nightmare, Sarah was fired from her marketing job for chronic tardiness. The same week, her boyfriend, Mark, finally dumped her after finding out she'd been lying about their shared finances. Instead of facing reality, she moved back home, where money for online shopping and nights out with friends just materialized, despite her being totally unemployed. Sunday dinners at my parents' house? They became a minefield. My mom would gush over Sarah for the smallest thing. Oh, she applied for a job. My dad would frantically steer the conversation away from anything that showed just how different our lives were. Whenever Sarah mentioned some new purchase, I'd see my dad wince, then quickly change the subject. Anytime I tried to set a boundary, I was cold or disloyal. 3 weeks before everything blew up, Sarah asked me for $2,000 for business clothes for interviews. Super vague, of course. I flat out refused. That ignited a full-blown argument at dinner. My mom said I was selfish with my success. My dad just stared at his plate. "You have more than enough money, Clara," my mom insisted. "She's your sister. Family helps family." I pushed back. "I'll help her with career advice, resume review, interview prep, but not cash that will just vanish." Sarah stormed out, calling me heartless. My parents gave me that look, the one I'd seen my entire life. The one that screamed, "Why can't you just give in? Why do you always make things so difficult?" I left dinner early, that familiar knot in my stomach tightening. It was the same feeling from childhood. That loving Sarah meant enabling her, and refusing to enable her made me the villain. What I didn't know then was that my refusal to give her that loan had planted a dangerous seed in her mind. A plan to target the ultimate symbol of my success. My premium Zenith Black card. The one with a $15,000 limit, the one I kept separate, the one I'd earned through years of meticulous management. The card that represented everything Sarah had never worked for. The day before the theft was insane. I was scrambling to finalize a massive presentation for a client, a deal worth millions. The pressure was immense, and my insomnia, a constant companion since college, was worse than ever. I'd barely slept 4 hours all week, running on coffee and pure adrenaline. At 7:30 that evening, as I was reviewing my presentation for the 5th time, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Her voice was uncharacteristically small, fragile. "Clara, I hate to ask, but I really need a place to stay tonight. Maya and I had a huge fight and I can't go back." Maya was her newest roommate, someone she'd known for like 2 months. I'd warned her against it. "Can't you stay with Mom and Dad?" I asked, my eyes glued to the financial projections on my screen. "They're at that retreat in Vermont, remember?" she said. "Please, I promise I'll be gone first thing. Just one night." I hesitated. I desperately needed sleep. But the thought of her in her car or with sketchy friends. "Fine," I sighed. "I'll text you the address." I tidied up the guest bathroom, grabbed extra blankets for the couch. My spare bedroom was my home office, not for guests. Sarah arrived 45 minutes later, dragging a suspiciously large overnight bag for just one night. Her eyes were a little red. Allergies, she claimed. She hugged me tight, thanking me profusely. We ate some quick pasta, and she rattled off fragmented details about her fight with Maya. Something about groceries and borrowed clothes that just didn't add up. All through dinner, I noticed her eyes scanning my apartment, taking everything in. "So when do you leave for work?" she asked, way too casually. "Presentation at 9 a.m., I said. "I'll head out around 7:30. "You seem stressed," she commented. "Sleeping okay?" That surprised me. Sarah rarely cared. "Not great," I admitted. "Insomnia this week." "Do you take anything for it?" she pressed. "Sometimes," I said, leaving out the part about my prescription sleep aid. As I set up the couch, she kept asking weird questions. Building security, neighbors, if my bedroom door ever stuck. Each question seemed innocent on its own, but together, they formed a pattern I was too exhausted to recognize. Before bed, I showed her the basics, then placed my purse and wallet on my nightstand as always. My Zenith Black card, the special one, was tucked deep inside. I swallowed my sleep aid, set my alarm, and just collapsed. The sleep deprivation plus the medication hit hard. I was out. Normally, I'm a light sleeper, but that night I was completely unconscious, totally vulnerable. I had no idea. At exactly 2 a.m., the timestamps later confirmed it, Sarah crept down the hall. He paused outside my bedroom, listening. Nothing. Just my deep, medication-heavy breathing. She slowly, so slowly, turned the handle, pushing the door open just enough to see me motionless in bed. Her movements were careful. Calculated. She approached my nightstand. She stood there, watching me for nearly a full minute, making absolutely certain I was dead to the world. Then, with delicate, sickening precision, she lifted my wallet from my purse. She took it to the bathroom, closed the door, and turned on the light. To minimize risk, of course. Inside she found it. My Zenith Black card. She pulled it out, using her phone to photograph both sides. Every single detail. The 16 digits, expiration, security code. She even took out my driver's license to get my billing address. Information secured, she meticulously put the card back exactly as she'd found it. But she wasn't done. Not yet. She needed one more thing. Back at my bedside, my wallet precisely replaced, she carefully took my phone from the charger. She knew big purchases would trigger verification. With practiced ease, she used my sleeping face to unlock it with facial recognition. Then she swiftly disabled notifications that might alert me. She forwarded the verification text to her own number, deleted the forwarding evidence, and returned my phone to its spot. As she was doing this, I stirred. Just a slight turn. Sarah froze, her heart hammering. I settled back. A final glance, a quick check to make sure everything was undisturbed. Then she slipped out, back to the living room. For the next hour, while I lay there blissfully unaware, Sarah launched her spending spree. Laptop open, my card details from the photos at her fingertips. First, 2 first-class tickets to Tokyo. Hers and our cousin Chloe's. Departing that very morning at 11 a.m. $6,000. Gone. Then 7 nights at the exclusive Park Hyatt Tokyo. $3,500. Followed by online shopping at luxury Japanese brands, pre-ordering items for collection when they landed. Another $5,500. By 3:30 a.m., Sarah had charged exactly $15,000 to my card. Every single cent of the available credit limit. She timed it all perfectly. Middle of the night. No alerts for me to see. And a departure that would have her out of the country before I even woke up. As dawn broke, Sarah packed her suspiciously large bag. She scribbled a note on my kitchen notepad. Emergency at Maya's. Had to run. Thanks for letting me crash. Love you, XOS. She left it on the coffee table. Then at 5:15 a.m., 45 minutes before my alarm, she slipped out. A rideshare was waiting to take her directly to the airport, where Chloe was already packed, excited for the surprise adventure Sarah had promised her. My sister had executed a perfect crime. Or so she thought. I jolted awake not to my alarm, but to my phone buzzing relentlessly at 6:02 a.m. Through blurry, sleep-addled eyes, I saw an avalanche of texts. The first one made my blood run cold. Zenith card alert. Purchase approved for $6,000 at International Airways. Then, $3,500 at Park Hyatt Tokyo, $2,800 at Ginza Luxury Collections, $1,700 at Tokyo Electronics Direct, $1,000 at Sakura Designer Boutique. Finally, the kicker. Zenith card alert. You have reached 100% of your credit limit. $15,000. Gone. In the dead of night, while I slept, my hands shaking, I sat bolt upright. This had to be a mistake. I didn't make purchases like that. I'd never even been to Japan. I immediately called Zenith customer service, my voice cracking. The rep was calm, professional. No, I didn't make any of these, I insisted. I was asleep. My card is right here. I fumbled for my purse. My Zenith Black card was exactly where it should be. How? How could someone use it when it was physically in my possession? As I was put on hold for the fraud department, it hit me. Sarah. I called her name. Silence. I raced to the living room. Couch empty, blankets neatly folded, her note propped up. Emergency at Maya's. Had to run. Thanks for letting me crash. Love you, XOS. Something was so profoundly wrong. I called Sarah. Voicemail. Texted. Call me ASAP. Important. Back on the phone with fraud, the news was devastating. The purchases had been verified, through my own phone. Verification codes sent, correctly entered. My billing address used. All security protocols followed. It would take time to investigate, they said. But my phone was with me all night. I protested. Charging right next to my bed. I checked my phone. And there was. Notification settings for my banking apps changed. Text forwarding enabled, then disabled. A cold, hard realization settled over me. I checked my wallet again. Nothing technically missing, but it had been handled. Cards ever so slightly out of place. My driver's license in the wrong slot. As I frantically tried to get ready for my now hopelessly late presentation, I saw other little intrusions. My desk drawer ajar. The bathroom towel hung differently. Someone had been through my things while I slept. I called Sarah again and again. Voicemail. I called Maya, her roommate. Fight? What fight? Maya sounded genuinely confused. Sarah told me she was staying with your parents this week, helping with a house project. The why confirmed everything. With trembling fingers, I opened Instagram. The first post made my blood run ice cold. Sarah. A selfie clearly from an airport terminal. Caption. Surprise trip with my favorite cousin. Hashtag Tokyo, hashtag first class. Tagged Chloe. Our 23-year-old cousin, Sarah's partner in impulsive crime. Posted 30 minutes ago. They were at the airport. About to leave the country. With my $15,000. In a total panic, I called my parents. My mom answered groggy. Mom, I think Sarah stole my credit card information. I blurted out. She's charged $15,000 and is about to board a flight to Tokyo with Chloe. A beat of silence. Then instantly defensive. Clara, what are you talking about? Sarah would never. Mom, I have proof. I practically screamed. She stayed at my apartment. There are charges for Tokyo flights, and she literally posted a selfie from the airport with Chloe. It must be a misunderstanding, my mom insisted. Maybe she used her own card and the bank made a mistake. I could hear my dad in the background. My mom partially covered the phone, explaining my accusation in a tone that implied I was being hysterical. When my dad got on, his voice was laced with that familiar disappointment. Claire, this is serious. Sarah has her issues, but she would never steal from family. Maybe you should check your facts. Dad, I am literally looking at $15,000 in charges to my card and an Instagram post of Sarah and Chloe at the airport heading to Tokyo, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. What more facts do I need? Maybe you gave her permission and forgot, he suggested. Or maybe you mentioned your card details. You've been working hard. Perhaps you're not thinking clearly. That familiar knot formed in my stomach. The same knot from childhood, whenever my reality clashed with their refusal to hold Sarah accountable. For a brief, dizzying moment, I actually wondered if I was wrong. Had I? Well, I shook it off. The evidence was crystal clear. The timing precise. This was theft, plain and simple. I hung up with them shaken. I was late for my crucial presentation, but I couldn't move. My chest tightened. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Cold sweat broke out. For the first time ever, I called in sick for an important meeting. I couldn't function. The financial violation, coupled with my family's instantaneous defense of Sarah, left me absolutely reeling. As I sat on my bed, phone in hand, watching my sister and cousin breezing through airport security with first-class boarding passes on Instagram, I felt a profound, gut-wrenching betrayal that went far beyond the stolen money. This wasn't just about $15,000. This was about a lifetime of unfair standards. A family system that always protected Sarah at my expense. A brutal realization. No matter what I showed them, my family would always believe Sarah. In that moment of absolute clarity, something inside me shifted. If my family wouldn't help me get justice, I would do it myself. If they wouldn't believe me, I would gather evidence so overwhelming, so undeniable, they would have no choice but to face the truth. With a newfound, burning determination, I picked up my phone. Not to call my family, but to call the police. The police station was a blur of fluorescent lights and hard plastic chairs. I sat there for almost an hour, clutching a folder with my credit card statements, Sarah's Instagram screenshots, and her flimsy note. Finally, Detective Reyes, a woman with tired but steady eyes, called me in. "This happens more often than you'd think," she said, calm and matter-of-fact. "Family fraud cases are actually pretty common." She took my statement, asking about the timeline, how Sarah might have gotten my info. When I told her my family was already dismissing my claims, she just nodded. "Also common," she said. "Families close ranks even when the evidence is clear. It's hard for them to accept someone they love could do this." She explained it was identity theft, not credit card theft, since the card was still with me. And she warned me, prosecution would be complicated. "You can absolutely press charges," she assured me, "but be prepared for immense family pressure to drop them. I see it in almost every case." After filing the report, I went straight to my bank. The fraud department rep there was far less optimistic. Because all security verification had gone through my own phone, the bank considered the charges provisionally authorized. They'd investigate, sure, but it could take 90 days to determine if I qualified for fraud protection. Meanwhile, I was on the hook for at least the minimum payment on $15,000. My rent was due in 2 weeks. This was a massive financial blow even for me. The thought of Sarah flying first class to Tokyo while I was scrambling to fix her mess, it ignited a cold fury I'd never felt before. But beneath the anger was a deeper, aching pain. The gut-wrenching realization that my own sister had so little regard for me that she could steal such a massive amount without a moment's hesitation or remorse. All day Sarah just kept rubbing it in. Instagram stories showed her and Chloe toasting champagne in their first-class cabin. Hours after landing, they were posting from the Park Hyatt Tokyo, showing off the spectacular views. By evening, bags from high-end Japanese brands, perfectly matching my stolen charges. But the most infuriating one came from Chloe. Best surprise ever from the world's most generous cousin. #Tokyo #shopping spree. A photo of them surrounded by luxury bags, wearing new designer sunglasses with the price tags still visible. I saved every single post, every story, every piece of digital evidence. I was building a case that even my enabling parents couldn't deny. And speaking of my parents, they called that evening. Their tone was wildly different. They'd spoken to Sarah, who'd apparently spun some wild tale. "She says she won the tickets in an online contest," my mom said, her voice dripping with hopeful desperation. "And Chloe's parents gave them spending money." I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. "Mom, do you honestly believe that? When has Sarah ever won anything, let alone first-class tickets to Japan worth thousands?" "It's more believable than her stealing your credit card," my dad interjected. "You need to drop this, Clara. You're going to ruin your relationship over what might be a bank error." "A bank error?" I practically yelled. "Dad, she literally posted photos of herself buying the exact items charged to my card. How can you still defend her?" "We're not defending anyone," my mom said, though her tone screamed otherwise. "Just wait until Sarah comes home to discuss this calmly instead of involving the police." When I told them I'd already filed a police report, the conversation blew up. My dad accused me of trying to ruin Sarah's life over a misunderstanding. My mom started crying, saying she'd failed as a parent. Neither of them seemed to care that I'd been robbed of $15,000, or that their own daughter was the thief. After I hung up, my phone exploded with text from extended family. Word had spread. Aunt Brenda suggested I was jealous of Sarah's free spirit. Uncle Paul wondered if I'd forgotten giving permission. Cousin Emily thought I was overreacting to Sarah borrowing my card. Only my Uncle David, my dad's brother and the family pragmatist, reached out with genuine concern. "Have you spoken with a lawyer?" he texted. "This is serious. Protect yourself regardless of family feelings." His was the only message that truly saw my reality. Amidst the gaslighting, I felt a flicker of gratitude. The psychological toll was crushing me. My insomnia spiraled, leaving me with only 2 or 3 hours of broken sleep. I started questioning my own sanity when my family so easily dismissed my experience. All those childhood memories resurfaced. Sarah breaking my science fair project and my parents telling me to be understanding. Christmas when she opened my presents early and was praised for her enthusiasm. The countless times her transgressions were minimized while my achievements were just expected. My friend Nicole became my anchor. She came over most evenings bringing dinner and just listening. Unlike my family, she never, ever questioned what happened. "Of course she took your card," Nicole said, her voice firm. "The evidence is literally on her Instagram. Your family is in denial because facing the truth would mean acknowledging they failed." Nicole's clear-eyed perspective kept me sane amidst the gaslighting. With her encouragement, I meticulously documented everything. Transaction records, screenshots of every single social media post linking Sarah and Chloe to my stolen money. I even called my law school friend Liam, who specialized in financial crimes. He reviewed my evidence. "You have a strong case," he confirmed. "But are you prepared for what this means for your family? Relationships change permanently. Some never recover." I agonized over that question. Could I really shatter my family? Was justice worth potentially estranging myself from my parents forever? Could I send my own sister to court, maybe even jail? The answer came to me as I watched another Instagram story of Sarah and Chloe, laughing without a care in the world, enjoying an expensive sushi dinner. What hurt most wasn't the money, though that was a huge amount. It was the complete lack of remorse. The absolute brazen absence of consideration for how her actions affected me. The smug confidence that, again, there would be no consequences. This wasn't just about $15,000. This was about finally breaking a lifelong pattern of enablement and denial. This was about proving that my boundaries mattered, that my financial security wasn't Sarah's personal ATM. I spent the week preparing. Sarah and Chloe were flying back to Boston that Sunday. I knew my parents would welcome them home, probably with a celebration. I knew Sarah would have spun some elaborate story. But this time would be different. This time I had undeniable evidence. This time I was ready to break the cycle no matter the cost to our family. Sunday arrived, thick with tension. I'd seen the family group texts, the ones I was deliberately excluded from, about my parents hosting a welcome home dinner for Sarah and Chloe. They knew. They were trying to control the narrative. This wasn't a social call. It was a reckoning. I dressed carefully, professionally. My evidence folder was in my portfolio. My heart pounded with every mile to my childhood home. As I pulled into the driveway, cars were everywhere. Family. An audience. Perfect. That would make it harder for my parents to dismiss me. I rang the doorbell, choosing to be a visitor. My mom answered, her smile instantly faltering. "Clara, we weren't expecting you," she said, the message crystal clear. "I wouldn't miss Sarah's homecoming," I replied, stepping past her. The dining room was full. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, Chloe's parents. Sarah was the center of attention, animated, glowing, handing out little Japanese gifts. Chloe, beside her, chimed in on the dramatic retelling. Silence fell as I walked in. Sarah froze mid-sentence, a Japanese fan clutched in her hand. For a split second, I saw pure fear in her eyes, before she plastered on a bright, fake smile. "Clara," she chirped. "I didn't know you were coming. Look what I brought you." She reached for a package, but I just stood there, portfolio in hand. "How was Tokyo?" I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. $15,000 worth of luxury must have been quite the experience. The air went cold. My dad stood up. "Clara, if you've come to cause a scene, let's talk privately," he warned. "Actually, Dad, I think the family should hear this," I countered. "Since most of them already know about my ridiculous accusation, they should hear the evidence." Sarah nervously laughed. "I don't know what you're talking about. We won this trip." "Tell her, Chloe." Chloe nodded frantically. Yeah. Super lucky. My mom stepped between us, instinctively protective. Let's all calm down. Sarah and Chloe are tired. This isn't the time for whatever misunderstanding you're still upset about, Clara. Misunderstanding. I repeated, my voice dripping ice. Is that what we're calling theft and fraud now? Sarah stood, her expression morphing into wounded innocence. Tears, the kind she could summon on cue, welled in her eyes. I don't know why you're doing this, she wailed. It really hurt that you'd accuse me. I would never steal from you. You're my sister. Murmurs of sympathy. Disapproving glances at me. Aunt Brenda put an arm around Sarah. Uncle Paul shook his head. My dad stepped forward, his face flushed. That's enough, Clara. I won't have you attacking your sister with these baseless accusations in our home. If you have financial problems, we can discuss that, but don't blame Sarah. Baseless. I echoed, incredulous. The police and the bank don't seem to think they're baseless, Dad. Sarah was now openly sobbing into my mom's shoulder, the perfect victim. Stop pretending, Clara, my dad said, his voice hard final. She would never touch your money. This isn't the first time you've made up stories for attention. My mom looked at me with pity. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. These delusions aren't healthy. I stood frozen. The sheer weight of my isolation crushed me. Here I was, the victim, being treated as mentally unstable for speaking the truth. The injustice. It was breathtaking. Memories flashed. Sarah breaking my music box, me being told to share better. Christmas, she opened my gifts. Enthusiasm. Countless times her behavior was minimized, my achievements just expected. A lifetime of being gaslit. A lifetime of my boundaries being the problem, not her violations. Something crystallized in me. An absolute, undeniable clarity. I smiled. Sarah's tears actually paused. You're right, Dad, I said softly. Sarah would never touch my money. My dad looked relieved, already turning. Because the card she used, I continued, opening my portfolio, pulling out the first document, wasn't actually my primary Zenith card. All eyes snapped back. Confusion. It was my backup card, I explained, my voice growing stronger. The one I keep specifically for monitoring potential fraud. The one with special security features I installed after noticing small, unexplained charges 3 months ago, after Sarah visited for my housewarming party. The silence was deafening. Sarah's performance completely shattered. Her face, tear-streaked, froze in alarm. I laid the first document on the dining table. This special monitored card, I said, my tone professional, sends email notifications with IP addresses for every purchase. The first-class tickets to Tokyo? Purchased at 2:04 a.m. from IP address 172.163.49.1. My apartment building. My Wi-Fi network. I added a second document. Here are the Instagram screenshots. Timestamps matching the purchases exactly. Notice this caption, posted at 6:15 a.m. from the airport. Surprise trip with my favorite cousin. #Tokyo, #first class. Sarah tried to speak, but I just kept going. Third document. Hotel confirmation email. Interesting how it was sent to sarahwilliams93@gmail.com, isn't it? And here, a fourth sheet, are the store receipts forwarded from the credit card company, complete with a signature that looks remarkably like yours, Sarah. The police handwriting analysts thought so too. My dad's face was utterly drained. My mom clung to a chair, trembling. Around the table the family shifted, the narrative they'd lived by crumbling. But I wasn't done. I pulled out a small flash drive. After discovering the unauthorized transactions, I contacted my building manager. Our lobby and hallways have security cameras. Would you like to see the footage from 2 a.m. last Sunday? Sarah completely lost it. Her eyes darted around, a cornered animal. She said I could use it, she shrieked. Clara told me I could use the card as a gift for helping her with a work project. All eyes swung to Sarah. Her story was already unraveling. Well, she didn't say it directly, Sarah quickly amended, but she implied it. She owes me anyway for all the times I helped her. Chloe, who had been terrified and silent, suddenly piped up, her voice small. You told me she gave you permission to use it as a birthday gift, Sarah. You said it was arranged. Sarah shot her a venomous glare. Shut up, she hissed. But Chloe, seeing the direction this was heading, kept going. You woke me up at 4 a.m. saying we had to pack for Tokyo because your sister had surprised you with tickets. I had no idea they were stolen. The word, stolen. It hung in the air, undeniable. My mom sank into a chair, hand over her mouth. My dad stood rigid, his entire worldview visibly shattering. You went into her room while she was sleeping? He asked Sarah, his voice hollow, broken. Sarah, realizing denial was useless, switched tactics. It was just borrowing, she insisted, tears streaming. I was going to pay it back. Clara has so much money, she wouldn't even miss $15,000. Those words. The casual, staggering entitlement. They finally pierced my dad's protective illusions. Chloe's parents stood. We had no idea, her mother said, her voice firm. Chloe will return everything immediately. Aunt Brenda physically recoiled from Sarah. Relatives who doubted me now avoided my gaze, shame etched on their faces. The doorbell rang. My dad, still dazed, answered. He returned with Detective Reyes. Miss Jensen, she said, addressing me formally. I received your message about additional evidence. The presence of law enforcement. This wasn't a family squabble anymore. This was real. Sarah, finally grasping the gravity, began to panic. You can't do this to me, she cried, looking wildly at my parents. A criminal record will ruin my life. My dad, looking a decade older, shook his head slowly. This is beyond us now, Sarah. These are the consequences of your actions. It was the first time in 29 years he'd said it. The shock silenced her. My mom made one last desperate plea. Claire, please. She's your sister. We can work this out. She can pay you back over time. I looked at my mother, steady. How would she pay me back? She hasn't held a job for more than 6 months in her adult life. Every time she faces a financial crisis, you and Dad bail her out. That stops now. I turned to Detective Reyes. I'd like to add these documents to my statement. And I want to formally press charges for identity theft and credit card fraud. Sarah lunged, a snarling mess of rage and fear, but my dad held her back. Don't make this worse, he said quietly. Detective Reyes led Sarah away, speaking in low, serious tones. My mom wept silently at the table. Our family dinner had become a crime scene. A welcome home celebration, the beginning of a legal battle that would change everything. In the days that followed, my parents went into full damage control. They offered to pay the $15,000 immediately if I dropped the charges. They brought in lawyers, family friends, trying to find loopholes. They appealed to my loyalty, my compassion, my concern for Sarah's future. But I held firm. This was felony theft. A huge amount. A profound violation of trust. Most importantly, this lifelong pattern had to be broken. For all of us. Judge Davies, a stern woman, agreed. Sarah was ordered to pay full restitution, 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service. The felony charge stayed on her record. A permanent reminder. As we left the courthouse, my dad put a hand on my shoulder. It was a gesture of support that came decades too late, but I accepted it. I think we failed you both, he said quietly. In very different ways. It was the closest to an apology I would get. But it was a start. The next 6 months were a period of intense, painful change. My parents still tried to shield Sarah. Offered to pay her restitution, I refused. Looked for loopholes, I opposed. Even suggested family therapy for my anger, as if my emotions were the problem. I established boundaries. Real ones. I wouldn't attend family gatherings where Sarah was excused. I wouldn't listen to gaslighting. I wouldn't pretend it was a misunderstanding. It was met with resistance. My mom called me unforgiving. My dad said I was punishing everyone. Relatives told me to move on for family peace. But I held firm. Slowly, a new dynamic emerged from the ashes. Sarah faced consequences for the first time. Her job offer? Gone thanks to the felony. My parents, finally seeing the damage their enabling had caused, set their own boundaries. Sarah had to find a job. Support herself. They'd help with the initial restitution, but she'd pay them back. For someone always rescued, it was a harsh awakening. She tried the old patterns, denial, blame, self-pity, but they didn't work anymore. Reality had finally caught up. Chloe, thankfully, was genuinely remorseful. She returned everything, wrote a heartfelt apology. I didn't know it was stolen money, but I should have questioned where it came from. I accepted. Her remorse felt real. My own healing was complex. I started therapy not just for the theft but for the lifetime of family dynamics. I learned how I'd internalized that my needs were less important than Sarah's feelings. I learned to trust my perceptions again. A support group for victims of family financial abuse helped immensely. Hearing other stories of betrayal, seeing people heal, gave me hope. Nicole, my friend, was my rock. We started Sunday brunches, a new ritual replacing the old, toxic family dinners. Your boundaries aren't just for you, she told me. They're a gift to Sarah too. Real love sometimes means letting people face consequences. Professionally, my experience sparked a new focus. I developed a financial literacy presentation for my firm, specifically on protecting yourself from identity theft, especially from family. 6 months later, Thanksgiving. My dad's invitation came with an unusual note. Sarah has something she wants to say to everyone, especially to you. guarded optimism. The atmosphere was tentative, everyone carefully navigating this new reality where truths weren't buried. Sarah looked different, simpler, more practical. She'd found an admin job, humbling for her but one of the few options. That humbling, it seemed to have sparked genuine change. After dinner she asked for attention, her hands trembling. "I want to thank everyone for being here," she began. "But mostly I want to apologize to all of you for the embarrassment and pain I caused, and especially to Clara." He turned to me. Her eyes met mine. No manipulation, no self-pity. "What I did was inexcusable. I stole from you. I violated your trust. I put my desires above your basic right to security. And when confronted, I lied and tried to make you seem crazy for telling the truth. I'm deeply ashamed. I don't expect forgiveness. But I'm working to become someone who would never do those things again." The sincerity. I'd rarely heard it from her. This wasn't a performance. This was genuine accountability. It didn't instantly heal us. Trust once shattered takes ages, if it ever fully does. But it was a start. Our parents too were learning. My mom started Al-Anon, recognizing her enabling. My dad became reflective, acknowledging his parenting's role. The holiday wasn't perfect. But beneath the awkwardness was something new. Honesty. We were finally seeing each other clearly. As I drove home, I reflected on this wild journey, sparked by $15,000. The financial loss was immense, yes, but the profound transformation it ignited in my life, far more valuable. I found my voice, my boundaries. I learned to navigate disapproval, to stand strong. Sometimes, the most meaningful gifts emerge from the losses we never wanted. Sometimes the greatest power is simply declaring, "This is my reality. This is my truth. This is my worth. And I will no longer allow anyone to tell me otherwise." Now I have to ask you, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to choose between family loyalty and standing up for yourself, even when it meant risking everything? Tell me what you think, I really want to know.